What if being someone's friend meant signing your own death warrant? She wasn't born for danger. She was born for luxury, comfort, titles. Princess Marie-Thérèse de Lamballe had no reason to fear the mob. She had wealth, status, and the one thing that made her a target, the Queen's trust. Marie Antoinette trusted few people, but she trusted Lamballe. Lamballe wasn't just a friend. She was her support, her shadow, her echo, and that trust would get her killed. By 1792, France was collapsing. Anger was everywhere. The people weren't just poor, they were furious. They blamed the Queen, and anyone who stood beside her. Lamballe stood closest. She followed Marie from Versailles to Tuileries, then from Tuileries to the Temple prison. Every step deeper into danger, every step closer to death. Everyone told her to leave. France wasn't safe. The Queen was poison. Lamballe refused. If the Queen suffers, I suffer too. That was her answer. It wasn't bravery. It wasn't stupidity. It was loyalty. And it would cost her everything. She finally agreed to step back, to leave. But she didn't run far. She stayed in Paris, close to danger, close to the Queen. She thought she could blend in, that people would forget. They didn't. They remembered her face, her name, her loyalty, and they hated her for it. One night, guards arrived. No charges, no trial, just orders. You're being transferred to La Force prison. She said nothing. She knew what it meant. Someone had written her name down. Not for justice, for punishment. She wasn't arrested. She was marked, not for what she did, but for who she loved. By the time Lamballe realized she was being hunted, her cage was already locked. Paris wasn't just rebelling, it was hunting. The revolution was no longer about ideas. It was about blood, and it wanted more. In August 1792, the monarchy officially fell. The royal palace was attacked. Soldiers surrendered. The crowd took over. Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette were arrested, charged with treason, locked inside the Temple prison. Anyone connected to them, family, friends, staff, became suspects, including Lamballe. She was taken to La Force prison. No trial, no questions, just gone. La Force wasn't a prison. It was a trap. Hundreds of people were crammed into filthy, overcrowded rooms. No beds, no protection, no law. Lamballe was a royal, but here, she was just another body. She still wore her fine clothes, jewelry, shoes not meant for walking. She stood out. Everyone saw it, even the guards. That made her dangerous, not because of what she said, but because of what she represented. Royalty, privilege, power. The guards had a list. No one saw it, but everyone whispered about it. A secret list of prisoners marked for death. Lamballe's name was on it. She didn't know, but others did. They started avoiding her, not talking, not sitting near her. Then the trials started, but they weren't real trials. Each prisoner was dragged out, told to answer a few questions, then judged by angry men in minutes. Most were declared guilty, then handed to the mob outside. The mob didn't wait. They beat, stabbed, cut. The prison floor turned red, hour by hour, name by name. Inside, the prisoners waited. They could hear the screams. They could smell the blood. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Guards called names. Some names never came back. Then they called hers, Princess de Lamballe. She stood, hands shaking, mouth dry. No idea what was waiting outside that door. When Lamballe heard her name called, she didn't know if it meant release or execution. They called it a hearing. It was an execution script with blanks to fill in. 2 guards walked into her cell. They said nothing. She followed. The corridor smelled of sweat and blood. Voices shouted outside. But inside La Force, there was silence. They reached the door. A hand knocked twice. It opened. Inside was not a courtroom. It was a room stained with wine and blood. A few men sat behind a table. They weren't judges. They were execution planners. They pointed at a chair. Lamballe sat down. No lawyer. No witness. no rights. The questions started. Do you support the monarchy? Do you hate the people? Will you swear loyalty to liberty and hatred to the king and queen? She didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She spoke clearly. I will swear to liberty, but I will not swear hatred to the king or the queen. That is not in my heart. One man leaned in. Swear, or you're dead. She looked him in the eye. Whether I die sooner or later doesn't matter. I have already made the sacrifice. There was no debate, no pause, no legal formality. The man in the center nodded. He said the words, "Let Madame be set at liberty." She blinked. Did that mean freedom? Was she safe? Number. It was code. It meant death. They opened the side door. Outside waited the mob. The guards didn't protect her. They pushed her out. The courtyard wasn't empty. Bodies were everywhere. The stones were red. A man raised a pike. Another held a hammer. The crowd screamed, "Traitor, spy, monster." Lamballe saw no escape, just rage and iron. One blow hit the back of her head. She stumbled. Another strike hit her face. She collapsed. The mob swarmed. They didn't stop. Screams filled the air, but none were hers. Her head was gone, but her punishment wasn't over. They weren't done with her. The mob had a final message, and they wanted the queen to see it. They didn't just kill her, they wanted her unrecognizable. The mob was already soaked in blood. They were no longer citizens. They were a pack. They had been killing for days, beheadings, beatdowns, stabbings. And now they had a prize, Princess de Lamballe. Two guards shoved her through the door of the prison. She barely had time to take a step. The mob saw her white dress, her face. Then came the first hit. A hammer struck the back of her head. Her cap dropped. Her hair fell loose. Another strike hit her forehead. She collapsed instantly. But they didn't stop. The crowd swarmed. Men, women, even boys. They stabbed her, beat her, slammed her with pikes, clubs, blades. There was no time to scream. No last words. No mercy. And then, someone reached down, pulled up her head, and cut it off. It wasn't clean, it wasn't fast, but they got it. Her head was lifted up, blood dripping down. The crowd roared. They weren't done. They stripped her body naked, tore off her clothes, tossed her corpse in the street like trash. Her body was never recovered. There are no records of a burial, no official remains, just that empty street. Some said they tore out her heart. False. Some claimed they cut off her breasts and mutilated her body. Also false. Those rumors came later propaganda to make the mob look worse. The truth? It didn't need exaggeration. She was beaten. She was hacked. She was decapitated. Because she refused to betray one friend. But that wasn't enough for them. They wanted a message. A symbol. So they stuck her head on a pike. Blood still dripping. Her blonde hair tangled in gore. And then they marched. A full parade. Through the streets of Paris. Not silently, not quickly. They shouted, laughed, sang. They were headed somewhere specific. The Temple prison, where Marie Antoinette was being held. The one they really hated. Lamballe was the tool. Her head was the weapon. The goal was pain. When they got there, they stood outside the queen's window. They screamed for her to look. Some say they demanded she kiss the head. That part is myth. But what's proven? A guard saw it, confirmed it. The head on a pike, raised high. He told Marie. She collapsed. They broke her. The mob got what they wanted. They didn't just destroy a woman. They sent a message to every royal left alive. You're next. But that wasn't the last time Lamballe's name was used to terrify someone. What came next wasn't violence. It was psychological warfare. And it worked. How do you break a queen without touching her? Show her what loyalty costs. The mob didn't stop at killing Lamballe. They wanted Marie Antoinette to witness it. The Temple prison stood like a fortress, but its windows faced the street. The pike with Lamballe's head was raised. Slowly, deliberately. They shouted her name, screamed for the queen. Some guards tried to turn away. Most didn't move. The woman inside had been Queen of France. Now, she was just Marie. No crown, no court, no power. And now, no friend. A servant ran to her. The mob outside howled. One of them told Marie what was happening. Another claimed she saw the head. Some say she fainted. Others say she screamed. Some say she collapsed silently. No one agrees exactly what she did, but everyone agrees on one thing. She broke. For days, she refused to speak. She didn't eat, didn't respond to her children, didn't answer questions, just sat there, blank. A warning had been delivered, and it worked. Lamballe wasn't just killed. She was weaponized. The people didn't want blood. They wanted fear. Marie gave it to them. Her face turned pale, her hands shook, her voice disappeared. That was the real victory. Not just death, but destruction without contact. The revolution had found a new tool: psychological torture. No blade, no prison guard, no physical contact. Just a message. This is what happens to anyone who stands with you. The head was eventually taken down, but the damage didn't stop. Marie didn't sleep. She had no mirrors, but she still saw Lamballe. In her dreams, in the corners of her room, in the face of her daughter. It wasn't madness. It was memory. Stuck, playing on repeat. The guards did nothing. The government did nothing. They didn't have to. The warning had been sent, loud and clear. You're not safe. You're not untouchable. You're not even next. You're just waiting. And Marie knew if Lamballe was used once, she could be used again. What they did next would prove that fear could be weaponized forever. This wasn't just murder. It was a message to the entire monarchy. Lamballe wasn't a queen. She wasn't a general. She had no army, no political office. She didn't write laws. She didn't start wars. She didn't silence protests. So why was she torn apart? Historians agree, it wasn't personal. It was strategic. Lamballe was a symbol of loyalty, of nobility, of the old world they wanted to erase. She represented something the mob hated: someone who stood by the queen. And that made her dangerous. Not for what she did, but for what she represented. She became a tool, a warning, a message in human form. Her death wasn't justice. It was theater. Her head on a pike wasn't a trophy. It was a broadcast, louder than any speech, clearer than any decree. It said, if we can do this to her, imagine what we'll do to you. And the people believed it. The press printed lies. Pamphlets exaggerated every detail. Rumors spread faster than facts. They said she was the queen's lover. They said she ran secret royal plots. They even said she begged to be killed. None of it was true. But truth didn't matter. The lie was more useful. It fueled more rage, more fear, more chaos. That's how revolutions feed themselves. They don't wait for proof. They wait for blood. Lamballe became a symbol twice. First, as a noble friend. Then, as a mutilated warning. Even after her death, she wasn't left alone. Her body was never recovered. Her burial never confirmed. Her legacy erased. Her memory contaminated. The monarchy never addressed it. They couldn't. They knew what it meant. Marie Antoinette never spoke of her again. But everyone around her knew. She carried that face in her head for the rest of her life. The silence wasn't peace. It was trauma. Lamballe's death didn't stop the violence. It was a preview, an opening act, because just weeks later, the queen herself would be dragged forward, judged, humiliated, beheaded. But her fall began here, with Lamballe's face in the window, with a message soaked in blood, with the sound of a friend's name being turned into a weapon. And this is what the revolution looked like before the guillotine even touched the queen.